Yes, ma'am.
Do you think that hell is an eternal fire, or do you think it could be outer darkness as well, or one or the other?
Good question. What do I think about hell? First of all, hell is real. Jesus talks about it, really. Second point, he doesn't give us a photograph. And I don't appreciate Dante giving us a photograph, basically, getting real specific. No, we don't know. And I think you just tipped us off to why we don't know. Because Jesus talks about hell as fire. The Bible talks about hell as fire. And it also talks about hell as outer darkness. Well, how do you have fire and outer darkness together? You don't. So I obviously think he's talking symbolically. And hell is essentially a separation from God. Why do people go to hell? Because they choose to live their life separate from God. And on the day of judgment, God's not going to say, I'm going to haul you into heaven to be with me, Cliff, even though all life long you went the other direction. No, it ain't going to be that way. Hell is God's great compliment to the reality of human freedom and the dignity of human choice. In fact, I think I know what the theme song of hell will be. I did it my way. And God will say, fine, you go ahead and do it your way for eternity. That'll be hell. Do I think it's physical burning for eternity? I don't think the Bible gives us that clear. Well, but it talks about the fire isn't quenched. Yeah, the worm doesn't die. I mean, come on, that is symbolic language. So if it's symbolic language, see, my point in reading the Bible is, I take the Bible seriously, okay? Which means, if the Bible says something, I'm going to accept it. But I'm not going to accept a misinterpretation of the Bible. Classic example, the role of women. All right, so Paul is writing to a very sexist culture. And in 1 Corinthians 12 and 14 and 1 Timothy chapter 2, he says some pretty strong things about the role of women. But what you've got to do is you've got to read that in context. Paul is not saying that women are inferior to men. No way. But in a society where women were not allowed to go to school, he's saying, no, I'm not going to allow a woman to teach. Why? Just watch the movie Yentl. Barbara Streisand plays a young Jewish woman. She has to disguise herself as a guy in order to go to school. So you're in that kind of situation. Another classic example is the issue of slavery. Paul writes, slaves, obey your masters. That has been painfully